guys, it's Drew again. I wanted to do a video response to my good friend Jake at Legends Never Die. He's recently hit 755 subscribers, which is a key number with Hank Aaron's home run total, and he wanted to kind of do a tribute with that number by having us do a video response. And what he wants us to do is he wants us to tell about our collections and why our collections are our collections. So I want to talk about the legacy of my collection, of where I kind of started and where I got to, and show different parts of it. So I'm going to kind of talk about different things. I'll give a brief synopsis now, and then just show different parts of the collection as the way I go, and hopefully you guys will enjoy it. So anyway, I started like a lot of people where, except I never really got packs as kids where I would pop packs. What I did was I would actually go to a local flea market and I would buy a complete set from that year. It was easier to do. I remember they weren't very expensive, and I had all the cards and I could look through them, and I learned so much. I loved baseball. I watched and listened to so many games back then as a kid, and it wasn't just the players on the teams I liked, it was players from other teams I liked, and I just learned so much about the entirety of baseball through that. And I'll never, I just loved that time of looking through those sets, because I had a whole year to study that set before one more set would come out the next year. Well, then the early 90s came, and I had a little bit more money. I was in my college years, and I started getting into Griffeys, and I would buy in packs, and I accumulated a lot of stuff, and I ended up getting all of my Griffeys, or most of what I have now, and I just loved them. I love getting Griffeys, and I was known as the Griffey guy, so if someone had one, they could sell it to me or trade it to me. And while I don't have as many as Mike from Sticks and Seam, or as a lot of other guys, it's a part or a portion of my collection that I really enjoy, is my Griffeys. So I'm going to start from the Griffey stuff and then move on a little bit, and I'm going to kind of give you a little bit of a tour of parts of my room, showing off different things in the collection I have. So let's go check it out. Alright guys, so this is my little Griffey shrine, as people have said before. It's some different Griffey cool stuff. There's an autographed bat I showed off in the case that my mom made for me. And but here's my Griffey case. This does not house all of my Griffeys, but the ones I really like to show off. And this case, as a woodworker, is just incredible because it opens up. If you haven't seen a video I did months ago, rather, when I first started out showing off this case, I suggest anybody who's a card collector who likes display, go ahead and build you a case like this. If you want to find out more about this case and how I got it, I do have a video talking about it. But anyway, this is my collection of Griffeys. I have way more than this. This holds about 380 different cards, and I have a book that's got lots more than that in it. But I love my Griffeys, and that was just a part of what I did. So there's my Griffey stuff. On to the next part. I started getting into some vintage stuff, and I do have a number of vintage, so I'm going to kind of slide over here. And one of the things I did was, where is it? I got into collecting my 1955 set, and these are the only two cards I still have from my original set, but I did complete the 1955. There's my Clemente and my Koufax. And as you can see, I've added back a few other ones, but I have very few otherwise. And that's that. But then I got into just picking up any cards I could. And this is different cards that I still have from different years. I've shown a lot of these off, but I haven't shown all of them off. But this is the first case that I have. And after I did the 55 set, I really got into Hall of Fame type collecting. And I actually completed what I considered my set, but I ended up selling off almost all of them to where now, or at least almost all of my pre-war, to now this is the only pre-war cards I still have, are these first 5. I showed them off recently in a Cracker Jack video, response to him. So those are my pre-war cards, those 5. And now I have just a smattering of other cards I really enjoy. Not the greatest of condition, but great cards nonetheless. And if you see any in there you really like. Scooting over here, I did end up start building some other sets. I did complete a 1956 set, and these are some of the cards, the key cards that I pulled out just for display. of the 56 that I really like for some reasons. But I do have the complete set. And another complete set that I love, I think it's down here, but I haven't talked about at all, and I'm going to do a video soon on it, is a 1963 Fleer set. And we'll talk about that at some other point. But that was a lot of fun. I'm going to zip over here real quick and talk about the Red Heart set. I did a video on this one. Go back and watch it. One of my favorite videos and one of my favorite sets. So there's a complete 54 Red Heart set. And then I got into displays. In the display, as you can see from this Red Heart set, I built that set. But then I've got my Carl Erskine display, which I'll talk about again in some video. I built this frame of Stan Musial with an autograph and a yearbook on it. Come back over here. I built my Sandy Koufax. So that's his play around minus his rookie, which you've already seen. Same thing with the Clemente. And other displays, I made this little bat holder for a vintage bat that my wife gave me, just a little old bat. There's one thing I'm not going to show yet because I want to do a whole video on it, but it's another display. Here's another one of the cases that I built, just showing different cars, Hall of Famers. I showed this in a recent video on Don's channel, and that's a really cool one. I did a video on this one, which is the oldest piece in my collection. So it kind of gives you a little bit of an idea of some of the different things I did, but when I really got into displays, that's what I like to do, is build stuff. So I'm going to do a quick zip around the room and show off some of this. Now this is the background I show in every single video, and it's just different random things. A friend of mine picked up that record at a yard sale for $1 and gave it to me. It's in great shape. I've actually played it and listened to it, and I have a recording of it, of Stan the Man's hit record, and I always think that's really cool. But that's an actual vinyl LP in there. I built this kind of cool vintage catcher stuff. This is just random things that I had picked up over the years. Everything in here is vintage except for the baseball. Baseball was a modern baseball, and I just took it outside and beat the crap out of it until it looked vintagey enough to put in. But that's a really cool one. Another display that I built that I really like is this Nolan Ryan with the autograph ball in there. Some of my bobbleheads that you see behind me. There's a couple things I got for Christmas. There's my new Cobb, and just some other really neat stuff. I do want to highlight something. No one's asked about it too much, but I want to highlight this. Okay, I wanted to show off this baseball. A good friend of mine named Jared painted it for me. He's extremely talented, and he knew as a Brooklyn fan he was just testing something, and he let me be the guinea pig, and I'm so glad he did. But this is a baseball he hand painted, talking about the Brooklyn Dodgers, or with the Brooklyn on it, and he painted numbers of my favorite players. Sorry, you got Campanella, Jackie, of course, Pee Wee Reese, my man Carl Erskine, and then he's got the Major League logo on the back. And if you ever see a video of mine and you see this in the background, there's that. Some of my bobbleheads, this is really all of my bobbleheads besides a few Griffies, but my wife gave me all of these, I believe. But I've got Stan Musial, Clemente, I got my Campanella and Pee Wee Reese, and my Koufax. Now, of course, this one I just received, a Griffey, and those are my bobblehead stuff. I'm not a bobblehead collector, but speaking of not being a collector, I want to talk about a different phase that I got into at one point. So I mentioned my friend Jared, and when I first met Jared, he was a big autograph collector. And I thought they were really cool, but these are some of the autograph baseballs that I acquired. But I kept promising my wife and promising myself, I am not an autograph collector. So what I'd like to do is show you how I'm not an autograph collector. This is what I have left of my non-autograph collector baseballs. I love an autograph on a baseball. I think they look great. Musial, Koufax, Feller, DiMaggio, Williams. I'm going to skip one because I'm going to do a video on one I don't want to show off yet. Hunter down below, Johnny Mize. Just some other great ones. Mantle, Mays, beautiful Hank Aaron, Ripken, and just they're pretty much all Hall of Famers, but there are different reasons I got these. That takes me into the part where I got into TTM, and I've never talked about my TTM on my channel, but let me show you some of the stuff that I did have. Pull it over here, turn the light back on so you can see it. So, or maybe not. So these are all cards I got TTM, and a lot of these guys, or some of these guys have passed away. There's Minoso, 54 Bowman, Monty Irvin, 52 Bowman, and I just started getting TTMs, and these are cards that I would get back signed, and I would always send a letter. I would always ask, I'm just flipping through pages now, if they could answer some questions, or sign a card, or sign an index card, or whatever. And those are all the people that just sent back different cards that are signed. But the letters that got back, these are the letters I got back where they would answer my questions, and I loved it. And I just love some of the answers I got, different autographs of people, different answers to their questions. A lot of guys they'd never really heard of. They're just what we would call common players. But man, just great answers to the questions. So yeah, I did TTM for quite a while. Here's another Monty Irvin. That one's an interesting one. I'm going to do a video on that one about one of the worst TTMs I ever got was that one right there. But another story for another day. Anyway, so I got through the TTM stuff, and it was just fun. That's my whole phase of not being an autograph collector. As you can see, I got quite a bit. But it was a lot of fun doing it, anticipating getting something. There's a whole different part of my collecting experience was doing that. And I finally got to a point to where I started accumulating so much stuff that I had to do something. So let's go back and we'll talk about that. So like I said, I got into a point to where I had so much stuff that I couldn't display it all. And as you could see from my quickie tour around the room, I love displaying stuff. And if it's just in a box, if it's just in a book or just underneath a table or something, then I hated it. I had to dig it out to go looking at it, and I would rather just look. And I went through some stuff personally that made me start to realize that if something ever happened to me personally, my collection could be a burden to my wife or my kids. And I never wanted that. I never wanted my collection to be a burden. So I started doing what I call uncollecting my collection. And what I started doing was I started selling off stuff. And that's where the Drew thing came from. You probably know the story, I've heard it before, where Jake bought a huge portion of my collection. And I was happy with it. I was great with it. The only part I wasn't great with was I did it about 3 months before the boom happened. So Jake is extremely happy with that, but that's really okay. And what I do is I want to be more specific about cards. I had so many different cards of great players and great cards, but I would just get them and put them in a binder or put them in a book and put them in a box, and I never looked at them again. And there was times I had doubles and triples, and I thought, I want to be able to enjoy them all. So the cases I showed you before, it holds up to about, depending on if they're vertical or horizontal, somewhere between 100 and maybe 120 cards. And when I get a new card, like I got this card for Christmas that I showed off in another video, this will go in one of those cases, which means a card that's in those cases need to come out. So I have to start deciding. But by doing that, it's sort of upgrading my collection. It's upgrading, you know, if I'm putting in a Mickey Mantle, well, I might take out, I don't know, I'm not going to pick somebody, but I will have to pick somebody to take out of that case. And I like that idea. That's fun to me because it's a challenge, and that upgrades what I'm willing to look at. I really like that part of my collection. But I just got to a point where I had so much stuff, and then as life continued to change, I just didn't have the ability to go out and acquire stuff anyway. And it's funny because in 2022, this year was one of the years that I actually obtained the least amount of cards. I think 4 maybe vintage cards that I got. 2 I won in a contest from Cracker Jack Cards, which I love and I do have them. And then the 2 that I showed in the Christmas video. But that's it. I got 4 cards in 2022. But you know what? 2022 has been one of the best years. And the reason it's been one of the best years is because of this community. I talk about it all the time. I comment on a lot of your videos about the community and the love that's been shown, and hopefully I'm doing that to others. But it's just a great community, and truthfully that's what makes my collection my collection. So Jake, thank you for this opportunity. I want to close it with one more part of my collection that I don't talk about a whole lot. There's very, very little value in here, but it's the sentimentality of my collection. And I love baseball stuff, weird, quirky, odd stuff. And in the intro to my collection, or to my videos, you'll see a quick thumbnail of something, and I want to show you the case that's in that thumbnail. So I took off the glass of a display case that I have, and I just want to show through it as I end out the video. This case is just random baseball things that I've acquired over the years. It's my dirt collection, just different fun things. This stuff has very little value, but a lot of them were gifts from people that didn't know what to get me. Weird little things, but this is what makes my collection, is because I could tell you a story about every single piece I have, and I appreciate every one of them. Some of you guys gave me some of these. But, Jake, thanks for the opportunity. And until next time, you guys be good.